Good evening, students and parents. Hope you're doing well. Now that you looked at a video that has a concrete example of arrays, we're going to look at a little bit more abstract ideas and apply just dots to our units, even though our unit's going to change, and how we would write a multiplication equation based on the arrangement of our dots using rows and columns. This is a little bit more difficult, but I hope they pick it up because some of the same ideas that we've had for rows and columns before for multiplication apply to this as well. If you watched the previous videos, we're making arrays. The question here is, what is the product of your array? And we made an array of Skittles. We put them in rows and columns. We organized it on some graph paper, a grid like this, just so we could make it nice and neat. And then we took the graph paper away, and we had rows and columns of Skittles. Now here we have rows and columns here as well, so we're going to get a little abstract. We aren't going to actually use the unit Skittles. We're going to say whatever we call these dots are going to be Skittles. So up here we say each dot represents one what? What are these again? We're going to say one Skittle. Okay, so now we're getting a little abstract. We're removing the actual Skittles, and we're going to replace them just with a dot that represents what we're imagining as Skittles. So if you notice, we have rows and columns, and we're going to start out the same way. This is still in a rectangle. Okay, that's very important. We don't need to find the perimeter, but we still do need to find out how many Skittles there are in this array. So we can use what experience we've had before to do that. So the first thing we have to know is our rows and columns. So let's go ahead and count our row. Remember, rows go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 in our rows of Skittles. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. Whoop. That looks all familiar to you, huh? Now we know we're going to find a product. So every time we find a product, we're going to be using multiplication, and then our product's going to go over here. When we say two factors, that's the two numbers that go into finding the product. So before on our area model, we put a multiplication sign over here. We aren't going to do that with arrays. I'm going to show you how to arrange your arrays to figure out what number comes first and what number comes second. So I like my smaller number to come first. So I'm going to try and arrange my Skittles in a way that will satisfy that. So I'm going to count by my rows. My rows is my smallest number. So I'm going to count my rows and group my Skittles. So here's my first row. And how many is in this group of Skittles? Can you tell me? Yeah, this 9 columns kind of gives it away, huh? So this is 9 Skittles right here. But that's only once that I grouped them. Let me group it a second time. I'm going to ask you the same question. How many Skittles are in the second group? If you said 9, you're right. You're saying, Mr. Budinger, these are all, like if you go that way, it's all going to be 9. You're going to group 9 Skittles every time you do that, and you're absolutely right. How many times I'm going to do that? Now this is where our skip counting comes in handy. This is 1 times 9, 2 times 9, 3 times 9, 4 times 9, 5 times 9. How far do you think I'm going to get? If you said 7, you're right. 6 times 9, 7 times 9. Now watch where I put my multiplication symbol. I'm going to put it next to my 7. Because this is 9, okay, in the group 7 times. So I'm taking 9 and I'm multiplying it by 7. And this is how we show it up here. 7 times 9. Okay, this part is here, how many times, and this part is how many is in each group. Can you remember what 7 times 9 is from your skip counting? If you said 63, you're correct. 63 what? So we need our unit over here, Skittles. And that's how we figure out arrays. Now this way we count our rows. Let's use this one down here to count our columns. Okay, we're going to get rid of our Skittles now because we're using our imagination. And if you go to Walmart, you're going to see in the refrigeration side, they have a place where they keep milk cartons. So I'm going to say milk cartons. And they have a variety of different kinds of milk, but they're all arranged in this kind of way. Let's say this is the front of where the refrigerator opens up, and you see all the cartons stacked behind. That's an array. Now we're going to do it the same way we did for our first one up here. We're going to count our columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 again, but 7 is going to be our columns this time. And how many rows do I have? You'll say, Mr. Brigham, that's easy. So that's a counting part, something we learned in first grade. Now we're going to group. Now here I grouped in rows. Here I grouped in rows, and I had 7 rows. Here I'm going to group in columns. Watch what happens. How many is in this first group? You're going to say, Mr. Budinger, there's 3. I'm going to say, how many is in the second group? I'm going to say, Mr. Budinger, it's the same as the first group because they're in nice rows and columns. Okay, so this is 1 times 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3, 4 times 3, 5 times 3. How many columns do you think I'm going to have? You're going to say 7. 6 times, 7 times. So our multiplication symbol goes with this 7. This is 3, okay, 7 times. And how we write that is our 7 times goes first. 7 times what? What are we multiplying? We're multiplying 3 7 times. And that's going to equal what? 21, if you know your skip counting. And you can use your skip counting if you want to, but make a skip counting chart up first. 21, what's our units going to be? Milk cartons. Okay. Are you getting this a little bit? Start to understand it. It's actually a little bit easier than area and perimeter. Let's look at this last one here. This one's interesting because it looks like a square. What do we know about squares? Squares have equal sides. That's what makes a square square. Now we don't have sides in an array, but I just drew that in lightly. It does make a square if we draw that in lightly, huh? So let's do the same thing. Let's count our columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 in our column. And how many are in our rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure enough. Okay, they're equal. Let's come up with a unit. We have to fill this in here. So one of these are going to be, another thing I like besides Skittles are M&Ms. So this is 1 M&M here. Now since our rows and columns are the same, it doesn't really matter how we're going to group them. But we do have to decide whether we're going to group them by columns or whether we're going to group them by rows. Since this one was done by rows, I'll do an example of columns over here. A second example of columns. So this is how many M&Ms did I group here? And you're going to say, Mr. Budinger, 7. And I'm going to do that how many times? You're going to say 7 times, Mr. Budinger. 5, 6, 7. So where is my multiplication symbol going to go? Can you look at our other two examples here? Where is it going to go? Did I count columns or did I count rows? Oh, I counted columns like this. So our multiplication sign goes with this 7. So that's the one I'm going to write first. 7 times. This is where I'm starting from. 7 equals, and do you know what 7 times 7 is? You can check your skip counting out if you made a skip counting sheet. It's 49. And 49 what? What's our units going to be here? M and M's. So hopefully you understand how to, oh, I didn't need to put a comma there. Parentheses. You guys got me doing that bad habit. This is plural, not possession. M&M's. So this is an example of how to calculate arrays and how you would lay out your multiplication problems with your two factors and products, and how to get your two factors in the right place. So go ahead and do the last one down here and the ones on the back. Okay. And practice as best you can. You come up with what the units are going to be. What does each dot represent?